Okay, back to chapter 10, video 2. Let's talk about forestry. So our forests are probably one of our biggest national resources, but we are overusing them. And actually now we've cut down a lot of forest, and now we actually just raise trees for lumber, which is kind of a scary thing. 73% of our forests have been used for timber harvesting. So very little of our forest is good old natural forest. Most of it has been clear cut or cut at some point. The types of forestry use primarily are clear cutting and selective cutting, although we went through all the different ones in class. There's lots of different choices. Clear cutting, of course, is really bad. Selective cutting is much better. And hopefully you remember all the other types through class the other day. Anytime you do any kind of logging or forestry, clear cutting, any kind of this, no matter what method you use, you are probably going to have to build logging roads. That's going to fragment your habitat, which can, as we know, reduce habitat and decrease biodiversity. Soil is going to be compacted because the more you drive on it and stuff like that, it becomes a problem, even if it's a dirt road. That increases runoff because water cannot penetrate a compacted soil. It will run off it rather than going in. It will decrease nutrients because you don't have plants growing there. When you replant plants in the area, there's always a huge change in what's allowed because you have an area that is now intensely sunny, so your shade-tolerant plants won't be growing there, at least not for a while, kind of thing. So it will reduce biodiversity. So those are always some issues no matter what kind of method you choose. When we clear cut and take everything, we often use fire or a herbicide to kill the bushy vegetation before replanting the area. That can be a problem. Your soil becomes very dry. It's increased chances of erosion, that kind of thing. Your sunlight becomes very intense. It can increase temperatures in the surrounding ponds and lakes that used to be shaded by the trees and that kind of thing. So lots of potential effects of forestry on the environment. Intensive logging practices, of course, are going to lead to potential decrease in biodiversity and potentially even endangered species. The marbled murrelet is a bird that is becoming extinct because of these things. The northern spotted owl likes old growth forests only and will only nest in old growth trees, and so that's a big thing in the Pacific Northwest. We are replacing very complex forests with very monochromatic, if you were, tree plantations. Basically, when we grow them back, it's a tree farm. It's not a forest anymore, at least not initially. And if we continue to harvest it, it will just stay that way. So, clear cutting, you take everything and you grow back some trees, so you end up with these little areas with all the trees being the same age. And then in clear cutting, you're only selectively cutting a few, so you keep some of your biodiversity and some of your variation in the habitat. Okay, fire management. The fact is, forests, prairies, a lot of our biomes are regulated by fire. And unfortunately, we have suppressed fire in a lot of these areas. So much so that now there's a huge buildup of fuel or dead biomass. And so if there is a fire, you end up with a huge, huge, huge fire, like literally uncontrollable. A few years back, there was a huge fire. This is when you were children, probably 10 years ago. There was a huge fire in Yellowstone because, again, Yellowstone had not been burned. We had suppressed the fires. Anytime a fire started, we put it out really quickly. So there was a buildup of fuel in the fire. And so then when we had the fire, it was a huge thing. And actually, they pulled people from all over the western United States to come in and fight it because it was so big. So suppressing fires is actually a bad thing. So in a lot of areas, we know this now. So in a lot of areas, we do what's called the prescribed burn. We go in on a day that has perfect conditions, and we actually set the area on fire. So we do it on a day that's not very windy, it's cool, it's humid, and we set little fires. And my dog's driving me nuts right now. He wants my attention. Stop it. No. We set little fires, and that's what's going on here. And we burn out all the little stuff, okay, which reduces that fuel load. It really is a good practice. There's nothing bad about it. And it prevents this, which is quite dangerous. There's different types of fires. Not that you really need to know about them, but there's different types of fires. And you can read about them if you want. If you live in a foresty area, you should keep the biomass, the dead stuff around your house, away as best you can. Clearing that out, keeping stuff around your house to a minimum will help in case there's a fire in the area. Our forests, our national parks, our wildlife refuges, and our wilderness areas are all different types of forest. We have publicly held forests in the United States. National park management, the goals of our national park management is to basically manage the area so that it is there for a long time. Different types of things mean different areas. Some of them mean that there should be nobody in there at all, no roads, no people, no nothing. Others are recreational use, kind of things like our national parks. When you go to these places, please, please, please realize you need to stay on the roads and on the paths. Do not go wandering off. It's not safe for you, and it's actually more harmful to the environment and to the critters. Let's see. You should know NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. It basically mandated an environmental impact statement. If federal money or federal permits are required for building anything, then you have to have an environmental impact statement. Basically, it looks at your impact on the environment and actually makes suggestions for you to lessen your impact on the environment, kind of thing. So if you were building a new freeway or something like that, there would have to be an environmental impact statement to make sure it's going through the best area. It will do the least amount of damage. Sorry, it's early in the morning now. I'm yawning. Okay, residential use. Of course, there's lots and lots and lots of things we do with residential. One of the biggest things that you should know about is urban sprawl. Very few of us actually live in cities anymore. We live in the suburbs. The creation of freeways and more families affording cars and having multiple cars are some of the biggest reasons that we have moved to the suburbs. Also, decreased taxes. There's usually lower taxes in suburbs. You don't have to pay city taxes. So we have moved out of the urban center to have more space because of our automobiles, because of all that. Unfortunately, and lower cost of land and stuff like that. So the houses are supposedly cheaper and that kind of thing. That's why we initially moved out. It's not necessarily why we still do. Not a good thing. It's resulted in urban blight. Urban blight means that now the cities do not have enough people living in the city and can't generate enough income through taxes to actually take care of the city. So now a lot of your older areas in cities and stuff, they're getting all run down like the picture here. Of course, now here in the United States, we have a movement to move back to the cities, and a lot of organizations and groups are moving back into the cities, and young people are moving back into the cities, and they're taking over large areas of the city that were kind of run down and making them nice again. You see this in a lot of areas in Orlando and Tampa and stuff like that. That's occurring, which is a good thing. Okay, so the Highway Trust Fund is one of the things that has really encouraged us moving into the suburbs. It made roads really easy, so it was really convenient. It was quick to commute from the suburbs back into the city. So be familiar with that. Okay. Smart growth. Last one. Let's get this done and we're done. Smart growth is the idea, and celebration is kind of a smart growth kind of idea. The idea is to go back to neighborhoods, to have areas with mixed land use. So you have living and families and even farms and everything in the same area. You have these smaller little communities that have everything the community needs in them. It discourages driving. You don't need to drive anywhere. The grocery store is just on the corner. You can walk, kind of thing. It creates a range of housing opportunities from apartments to small homes to big homes, townhouses, condos, those kind of things. The idea is a walkable neighborhood, so lots of good sidewalks and paths and stuff like that to walk. You encourage the community feel, so working as a community and stuff like that. Compact building design, basically being very efficient. Putting apartments over commercial stores and stuff is always a good thing. It's good use of space. You get that sense of community and sense of place. You preserve your open spaces, farmland, natural beauty, that kind of thing. So you have your natural areas and your farm areas. Transportation sometimes within the cities, maybe a bike system, maybe a trolley system, something like that. So it can much easier to use community-based transportation system. Very, very just strong involvement within the community. So a lot of these things you can see is kind of celebration-ish. Celebration doesn't have all of these, but it has some of them. And it does some of them quite well, and it does some of them not quite so well, because, it's kind of hard for a grocery store to make money in a small community, kind of thing. But the idea is to go back to the more small communities where everything's functioning. You're keeping all the money in the area. You're keeping everything together. It's good economically. It's good environmentally. It's good in so many ways, and it makes people happy. It's nice to be part of a small little community where you know most everybody. So, okay, that's it. We are done. I hope you guys are having a good time, and make sure you ask any questions if you have any. I'll see you in class. Bye.